missed, but welcome. My name is Will Cote. I am the Parks Director for Parks and Trails New York. On behalf of the entire Parks and Trails New York team, I want to thank you for joining us for the final workshop in our 2021 Friends to Friends series, created to support grassroots friends groups through the sharing of best practices and programming and informative collaboration. So this series was specifically designed for friends of New York State parks and historic sites, and I want to thank New York State Parks for helping us provide today's workshop, and for Andy Fife at State Parks, who gave us a lot of great suggestions going into the beginning of this series about 8 months ago or so. Today's event will be a little bit different than our previous workshops. Instead of hearing from a featured panelist, PTNY staff is going to highlight the impact of friends groups, PTNY and New York State Parks that we had collectively in 2021, and share the opportunities and initiatives that PTNY has in mind for friends in 2022. So from our annual Park Advocacy Day and I Love My Park Day events, to other series in this workshop and the launch of a new online community, the Friends Group Gateway. We have a lot to share with you, and I think it's going to be a really exciting, very friends-centric year for us, and we're really looking forward to sharing that with you and celebrating. We will have a little bit of time at the end of the workshop, as we do, for a Q&A session to answer any questions you might have about the upcoming year, anything we covered in this workshop. But before we begin, I just want to say thank you to all of you for your hard work this year and every year that you put into stewarding and promoting and protecting New York State parks. It's been amazing to meet more of you this year and to work together with your groups on events and projects, and really to see the impact that you've had on communities across our state. So I hope that you find value in what PTNY has to offer friends, and that you are excited as we are about some of the initiatives that we have planned for 2022. So just a quick bit of housekeeping just to touch on as we do. First, please add any questions and thoughts based on what's presented this afternoon into the chat so that we can address it later in the workshop. If you're not familiar with Zoom, you can find the chat feature in the center bottom panel of your screen. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties, please address that in the chat if you can, and we'll do our best to assist you. If for some reason you get booted out, feel free to send me an email and I'll keep an eye on that as well. Perhaps most importantly, please remain muted so that we can reduce background noise and help foster an enjoyable experience for everyone. And with that in mind, we welcome you to introduce yourself in the chat. So, let us know your name, what group you are affiliated with, and this time, why don't we say your favorite PTNY event from 2021. And with that, I will turn it over to Shayna.
Thank you, Will. Can everyone hear me okay? Great. So 2021 was an eventful year. Will already mentioned, COVID continues to put parks on track for another year of record visitation. It's also forced us all to continue to be creative with our work, from virtual and hybrid events and programs to using technology and social media in new ways to engage and reach more people and achieve our organizational goals. We've all learned a lot this year, really, as we continue to support and promote and protect our lovely New York State park system for now and future generations. So thank you to all of you who joined us for one or more of our events in 2021, the success of which, we'll go over all of it, but would not have been possible without you. So getting to interact and work with friends groups in new and exciting ways really is one of our favorite parts of the job. I know Will and mine especially, we love working with friends, and we really hope to continue to strengthen and build these partnerships in the future. So diving right in, one of our first events of 2021 was Park Advocacy Day. And Park Advocacy Day, if you haven't attended, is an annual advocacy event hosted by Parks and Trails New York in partnership with the Open Space Institute. So this year we celebrated the 15th anniversary of PAD virtually, which was exciting. Traditionally, park supporters from across the state, dubbed the Green Scarf Brigade, because everyone shows up in these green scarves, gather in Albany on the first Monday of March to meet with state legislators to connect on the value of our great parks and what they bring to their constituencies, economy, communities. This event really gives us the chance to give our parks a voice and interact with the state's decision makers on a personal level. So continuing these conversations each year is really important, and it helps us to form stronger relationships in the long run, which help us to achieve what we're trying to achieve. So in 2021, due to the pandemic, I mentioned, we reimagined Park Advocacy Day to be a completely virtual event. We advocated for our parks in new and exciting ways, still using those stories to influence lawmakers, just doing it from behind a screen. But those stories really help to protect and enhance our state's environmental and cultural future. So on March 4th, 46 advocates from 29 different friends groups and 5 partner organizations accomplished 27 virtual legislative meetings, and we executed successful letter writing and social media campaigns as well. So really a multi-pronged approach to advocacy this year. And our efforts were successful. Our collective action helped to secure $110 million in capital funding through the Parks 100 Capital Initiative, as well as the $300 million EPF, which continued the Park and Trail Partnership grants and really helped to protect more New York lands and increase outdoor recreational opportunities. So thank you all for your help in making the first virtual Park Advocacy Day a success. So I Love My Park Day, that was in May this year, continues to be the largest single day volunteer event in New York State. And we celebrated the 10th anniversary this year. So that was exciting. And that was also formed in a different way as well. We had some unique challenges created by ongoing social distance requirements and guidelines. So PTNY, along with our partners at state parks and the Department of Environmental Conservation, we provided over 5,000 opportunities at 140 events across the state for people of all ages and abilities to enhance, beautify, and steward our precious natural places. And 50 of those events were hosted by friends groups. And that's safe to say I Love My Park Day would not have been a success without your help. That's a huge chunk of events run just by friends groups. So over Saturday and Sunday, May 1st and 2nd, volunteers participated in a lot of different projects, from general park cleanup, invasive species removal, beautification efforts, painting benches and picnic tables, everything to make the park system a little nicer. And the continued physical impact of this event is substantial. But the impact of our next topic has been significant in other ways for the park community, including shaping some of our 2021 and 2022 events and initiatives. And that is the Friends Leadership Council. I know we have a few council members on today, so thank you for joining us, guys and ladies. So in July, Parks and Trails New York launched a pilot initiative to develop a steering committee of friends groups. So we dubbed this the Friends Leadership Council. And this advisory board really strives to strengthen friends organizations and therefore enhance stewardship of New York State parks and historic sites through mutual support and networking. So currently there are 7 participants on the council, which were selected to represent the diversity of friends groups across the state. So different regions, all volunteer groups versus those with paid staff, parks versus historic sites. We really try to get a whole representation in there. So currently sitting on the council, you can see on the screen, but the Friends of Fillmore Glen, Friends of Fort Craylow, the Friends of FDR Fort Freedom State Park, Friends of Letchworth State Park, the Walkway Over the Hudson, Friends of Minute Anthony Common Nature Center and Wellesley Island State Park, and the Walt Whitman Birthplace Association. So the Leadership Council's activities have focused on information sharing and dialogue thus far, as well as capacity building, identifying best practice resources, and promoting and advocating for the park system by providing a unified voice for friends groups and their parks and historic sites. So over the course of just this pilot phase, the council has worked on developing these workshops, the 2021 workshops. They've also aided in the development of the 2022 Friends by the Numbers survey, which is New York State Parks Friends Group survey that we will talk a little bit more in a minute. But they've also helped develop aspects of the Friends Group Gateway, another initiative that we will be talking about soon, this online platform and community. So the council is currently assessing the effectiveness and viability of this pilot program's continuation into 2022 and beyond. So Park and Trail Partnership grants. This year was a little unique. We did 2 rounds of the grants, round 6 and 7. So after a 4-month delay due to the state budget freeze as a result of the pandemic, the 6th round of the PTPGs launched on Monday, January 11th and closed on March 11th. And during this round 6, we received over $1.5 million in requests and we awarded $900,000 to 30 different friends groups. And to celebrate these awardees from round 6, we were able, luckily, to get out to 7 different groups this year across the state and host some big check events. So we got to celebrate with the Harlem Valley Rail Trail Association, made it up to the Hudson Valley, Rockefeller State Park Preserve, and Old Croton Aqueduct. I know Will and Maria made it out to Western New York and got to visit Art Park and the Martin House and Rhinestein Woods. And then me and Jonathan went to the Saratoga Spa State Park as well. For round 7, we've returned to the traditional schedule. So with an application process that opened in September and closed on November 30th. And we're currently reviewing those applications and plan to announce awardees in June of 2022. Another initiative this year, right, you guys are here for one of them right now, but is our Friends to Friends workshops. During the summer and fall of 2021, PTNY, with the support of New York State Parks, we hosted 6 Friends to Friends workshops for Friends of New York State Parks and Historic Sites. So these workshops were designed to support grassroots friends groups, such as yourselves, through the sharing of best practices, innovative programming, and collaboration. We explored a variety of topics, including updating and maximizing your MOA, recruiting volunteers, the National Heritage Trust, how it helps friends, cultivating and strengthening your board, and the power of Instagram was our last one. And this is our the 6th and final of the year. The series featured knowledgeable panelists on different topics to really increase the capacity and impact of grassroots organizations and provide friends the opportunity to network and share resources. So as part of a follow-up, PTNY created and shared multiple resources to help friends better understand and implement these best practices and strategies in their own organizations and communities, including recordings of the workshops, which you will be able to find on our YouTube channel right now. Currently, all recordings are available. And in fact, our desire to find a way to better share these resources, that was one of our issues, and to connect friends, more members of each organization. This was one of the primary motivations for the development of our newest initiative, which Will is going to talk about, and that is the Friends Group Gateway, powered by Parks and Trails New York. So that was a lot, but I'm going to turn it over to Will to talk about this exciting initiative.
So yes, Shannon, thank you for the summary. You know, this is a little bit of a different workshop for us and for all of you. And it's really as a response to the request that we get from Friends Group to know more about what we do. So we really wanted to provide this summary. And to Shana's point, we have been trying to provide more and more resources for you all and finding a way to really organize them meaningfully so that they're very usable and accessible for you all was one of the main driving factors behind the Friends Group Gateway. And you know, as many of you know, for nearly 40 years, PTNY has been supporting Friends Group by offering best practice trainings, technical assistance, hosting conferences and events, and running advocacy efforts. And really, so the Gateway is the next step in our evolution to advance Friends Groups. And after 2 solid years of planning, we're finally ready to share this with you, and we're incredibly excited about it. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a snapshot about what to expect. But in January, we'll be launching the Friends Group Gateway. It's an expansive online community for friends groups to connect, share resources, and directly collaborate with one another. The Gateway is powered by a group called MemberClicks. It's a company that creates custom databases for professional associations. And our Gateway will have a suite of integrated services and tools that will not only enhance and expand the work that we can do for groups, but also offers you all, the groups themselves, new tools that can advance some of the things that you are doing on the ground at the parks and sites that you champion. Some of the primary features of the Gateway include a member database and directory, e-communication tools, event calendars, a resource library that Shana has spent many, many hours creating for all of us, including reports, recordings of workshops, documents and templates that we've created or have been shared by panelists or other friends groups. We'll also feature discussion forums organized by topic areas, amongst a number of other things that are really too numerous to mention at this moment. But there are 2 highlights that I'd like to mention with you all. First, the Gateway will give all Friends Group members the ability to connect and collaborate allowing folks to solicit information, ideas, and resources from one another, and then add them directly to this resource library that we've been curating. So it's a really exciting feature for us. And second, the Gateway will be able to welcome and engage as many members of a friend group that would like to participate. And this is really important, we think, for all volunteer groups in particular, who often do not have regular access to our information or communications or to resources and invitations and those types of things. So our hope is that it will minimize the feeling that some friends group members have expressed that they're sort of operating in a bubble without a network of support. This is really going to allow folks to branch out and learn from one another. The Friends Group Gateway is going to offer essentially a tiered membership structure. So we're offering 4 types of group memberships to the Gateway. While some of our content, like the best practices manual, will remain a publicly accessible resource to anyone who visits the site, other resources, including our Friends in Focus guidance documents, templates, sample documents shared between Friends groups, and more in-depth resources will be restricted to Friends members. And we are offering those 3 group memberships to Friends, and those will be based on your group's annual budget. We really want to make it very accessible for everyone. So those memberships range from $50 to $150 per year per group. We are also going to offer individual memberships that we're calling an outdoor recreation professional membership. And that's going to be for folks who may not be directly affiliated with Parks or DEC, but are interested in our work and our content. So the most important thing to note is that a membership will enable as many members of a group to participate in the Gateway at no extra cost, and the membership is a flat fee for your entire organization. So if your group is just 5 people, all 5 can participate. If your Friends group is 50 people, all 50 people can participate, again, at that one rate based on your group's annual budget. There are a couple other things that we just kind of want to highlight about those memberships. We know that each Friends group is different and that your needs vary based on the mission and makeup of your organization. So we've really tried to craft a suite of options and benefits that are going to benefit all of you. So for those Friends members, this is what we're calling leader, ambassador, or champion group members, it's going to provide complete access to the Friends Group Gateway, a quarterly members only newsletter with key updates and opportunities geared towards Friends groups. It's also going to create an opportunity for corporate volunteer facilitation, where corporate groups can connect with PTNY and we facilitate volunteer groups working with your Friends group. It's also going to have benefits for some of our events, special trainings and workshops, and then custom designed digital marketing and promotional tools available to you all as well. So we can talk a little bit more about that later or in some of the subsequent workshops, which is a nice segue. We really want to make sure that Friends groups have a lot more information about the Gateway and what it offers and the benefits that are associated with it. So our next workshop is actually going to be Thursday, January 20th at 4 o'clock. And we're going to do a deep dive into the Gateway and all that it has to offer, go over how you can access it and become a member, and really show you some of those very specific features that we have shared with you all today. So that's the first thing that will happen in 2022, but I also want to give you more of a snapshot of what will also follow. And the thing about the Gateway, I think that Shane and I are personally, I'm very excited about, is that it's going to help us come up with content for workshops and for our upcoming statewide conference, which we're going to be having ideally in late fall 2022. And we're really excited to bring back this opportunity to Friends Group, something that we have not been able to do since 2019 when we last hosted it at the Gideon Putnam in Saratoga Springs. So the dates are still to be determined, but again, it'll likely be late fall, depending on what our venue options are here in the Capital Region. We're going to be planning for a 1.5 to 2 day conference, and it will include some new elements, such as unique opportunities for Friends Group members of PTNY specifically. And we'll be using insight from the Leadership Council and content from the Gateway to influence the breakout sessions and topics that we cover at the conference. And we're really looking forward to seeing you all again in person. Hopefully things are a bit different by then, although I feel like we all sound like a broken record saying that. So we'll certainly be keeping the guidance in mind, but as best as we can, we want to make that opportunity available. As Shana mentioned, we're also going to be rolling out the Friends by the Numbers survey, or a Friends Census, if you will, and that will be happening in summer of 2022. We're going to use data that we collect to create a report that will highlight the impact of Friends groups on the New York State park system and the surrounding communities. We do this survey somewhat regularly to capture the hard work that you have been doing in parks and sites, and demonstrate the value that Friends groups have as a whole, not only on New York State park system, but also in our economy as well. So this report will be public facing and can be used in your external and internal advocacy efforts, as well as any situation that you might want to highlight the value of your friends as a whole, perhaps in a grant application or in some of your sponsorship work. The last Friends by the Numbers survey was created in 2018. You can find that on our website. But in 2022, we'll be making some significant changes to the survey that were really informed by the Leadership Council and their insights. And we'll be capturing some new data on things like tourism dollars, based around your park or site and your park attendance, tying that to job creation numbers, the impact that your promotion and marketing of events and activities has in the region, and then sort of dollars generated by corporate partnerships and those types of things. Those are really important quantifiable aspects of your work that we want to make sure we put more of a focus on going forward. Speaking of the Leadership Council, due to the really successful pilot initiative that we've had over the course of 2021, we do plan on continuing that into 2022. We are currently assessing and discussing what the future of the council may look like. And we want to make sure that the initiative supports the goals of Friends, state parks, and PTNY, and that aligns with a 5-year vision for Friends groups that I'm going to touch on in a few minutes. But after deliberating with the council, we do know that we are going to seek out more opportunities to get input from other groups, essentially grow the circle that is informing the work that's happening here at PTNY and beyond, and create more regular networking opportunities for groups with similar backgrounds and needs. So how exactly we will do that, we're working on it, but that is absolutely our intention. So we want you to stay tuned for more updates about the council, and we're really looking forward to doing that. So less of me and more of Shana, so I'll turn it over to her.
Thanks, Bill. Those are some of the new initiatives that we're working on here. I'm going to focus on some dates for some events that you may be looking forward to already, so you can start planning. So make sure you have your calendars ready and mark some dates down. But so I Love My Park Day 2022, tentatively almost 100% certain it will be on Saturday, May 7th. The last 11 years it has been on the first Saturday of May. So that is what we are aiming for this year. And we are also aiming for this to be our biggest and best yet. We were, the last 2 years have been, struck down a little bit by COVID, still successful, but we're really hoping to make this one a bit bigger, more exciting, reach more volunteers. So as far as for hosts, if you will be hosting an event, we will be putting on 2 webinars for hosts. And the first will be in late February and another one in early March. I highly recommend coming to those if you have any questions about hosting an event, or even if you've hosted one before, and you will get new information. So it's worth coming to. PTNY also, if you don't know, we have many resources available for event organizers. These include planning tools, templates, signs, flyers, logos, all sorts of things that will help you on the day of, that you don't have to create yourself. We already have it ready. All these resources will be updated and available to you on our website at this link, but we will update them closer to the event. So this year we will be using a different system for registration that we hope might make the process a little bit smoother. We're hoping to do that through the gateway as well, so that might make it a little easier. As always, if you have any questions leading up to I Love My Park Day, please email us at ilovemypark@ptny.org. Don't worry, this will also be in the follow-up email that we will be sending you. So all this information will be there. Now, Park Advocacy Day. So Park Advocacy Day 2022 hopefully will occur on the week of March 7th. So mark your calendars. We are working hard, hustling with our partners at OSI to really figure out if this event will be virtual, hybrid, in person. We're not entirely sure yet, but we're working hard to figure that out. So make sure to check our website and your email as we get closer to the event. We will keep you updated with anything that comes through. There are a few priorities that, depending on the governor's executive budget, we will be advocating for at PEAD next year. And these include an increase in New York State OPRHP staffing levels to 2,300 full-time equivalents, as well as funding the New York Parks 100 capital program at $330 million next year and annually over the next decade, increasing funding for the Environmental Protection Fund to $500 million with no offloads or staff costs, increasing funding for the Park and Trail Partnership grants from $1 million to $2 million under that EPF umbrella, if that is increased, increasing the proposed 2022 Environmental Bond Act by $1 billion to a total of $4 billion, and increasing the Municipal Parks Program to $40 million to expand and increase access to community level parks for New Yorkers. So those, I know that's a lot, but those are our priorities that we're looking at now. They might change based on the executive budget that comes out. So dates for round 8 for the Park and Trail Partnership Grant. The timeline for the 8th round should mirror this current round, so the traditional schedule, but it really depends on the passage of the state budget, right? So applications should open in September. So mark your calendars now. Really make sure to talk about your potential ideas and projects with your park staff and park manager early and often to make sure there's synergy between your application and the plans for your park and site. That's important. That's one thing we've really been hearing from state parks is to communicate those plans. Applications will likely be due at the end of November, so plan accordingly there as well. Workshops. So we do hope to continue our Friends to Friends workshop series and with a couple additional workshops for our members. So in 2022, we already have a few ideas brewing. One of those is a New York State's Park 5-year plan for advancing DEI. We are planning to host this workshop early in 2022. Another one is for the 5-year vision for Friends group that we'll get into in a minute. We're hoping to do 2 workshops exploring the Friends Group Gateway and member benefits, just to show you how that works, do a little more that Will was talking about earlier. We also, for our members, will be doing 2 development workshops specifically for members. So I'm looking forward to that, and that will be hosted with our development director, Lyndon. So that'll be exciting too. Also hoping to do workshops on advocacy and advocacy tools. We did one prior to Park Advocacy Day last year, and it was a success, and we're hoping to do another one, at least one this year. And then communications between friends and state parks. A few of those. That's a topic that we want to dive into. So we will be transitioning our workshop content and registration to the Gateway in the new year, but we'll make sure you're still receiving everything, all our e-blasts, and that you can easily register for any event. So it might look a little different in your email if you're used to what you're used to seeing from us, but we will make sure you get that information. And now that's enough of me. I'm going to turn it back over to Will.
Yes, so the only other piece that we sort of alluded to a couple of times throughout this workshop, and candidly is still a work in progress, is this 5-year vision for Friends. And really the background here is it came out of a conversation we had with the Leadership Council about how Friends groups of all shapes and sizes, if you will, measure their own success. And as we were sort of having those conversations about what universals are there that exist, it came to the forefront that we needed to know a little bit more about what state parks as an agency sees as success for Friends groups. And so after a couple of conversations with our contacts at state parks, they really recommended that Shane and I have conversations with each of the state parks regional directors, that they're the most clued in to what their needs are in those regions and have a better relationship or understanding, I should say, of Friends relationships with parks. And so it was a bit of an undertaking, but I'm happy to report that over the course of November 2021, Shane and I did speak to them all, and we collected their insights into Friends groups, really with the goal of identifying any unifying elements that are common to all regions and the affiliated organizations therein. From those conversations, which were actually incredibly informative. PTNY has started to craft a 5-year plan that organizes the core elements or the commonalities, if you will, that we heard from those regional directors, and that will ultimately kind of transition itself into a 5-year work plan that PTNY will use as a rubric for the work that we have going over the next few years. So we want this vision to provide a foundation for how Friends can best work with OPRHP in ways that PTNY specifically can support Friends groups to become more successful in achieving their missions. We feel that this is going to be a great tool for us, not only for planning purposes, but to provide some clarity for Friends groups. Again, it's in draft form, but we do hope to share that with you all, again, as Shana mentioned, via a workshop in the first quarter of 2022, and really dive into the 5 core elements that we identified from those conversations with the regional directors. So it's exciting for us, and I think it's been an opportunity for PTNY to take a breath as we look ahead to 2022 and some new initiatives, and be a little bit self-reflective about what work we have done, what work we want to do, and how we can make it better and more useful for all of you and the work that we do. So that is the highlights that we have sort of planned out for 2022. I know we have some questions, Shane, I think that came in either in the chat. I know we also had some really great questions from folks when they registered. So if you have any questions that pop into your mind, feel free to throw those in the chat. We burned through a lot of this information very quickly, so we do have a good amount of time. If there's any question, even if you think it's a quote unquote stupid question, throw it in the chat. We're happy to answer it. That's what this workshop is all about, is providing some insight and clarity into the work that we do and how we come up with these things. But Shana, I'm going to turn it over to you so we can just do some rapid fire questions, and I'll let you take it away.
Of course. Well, we do have one in the chat right now, and that we should just address pretty quick, because I do know the answer to this one, but I think you can help me with it. But Andrew asked if the 2 different webinars for Isle of Wight Park Day will have different information, or if we should just attend one. And I would say to that, they will have different information, right? Well, I can't remember exactly what information, but I know they do have different information.
Yes, Andrew. The first one is really, curated for Friends groups and specifically hosts who will be, opting to host a volunteer event at Isle of Wight Park Day, some of the logistics that go into that, the information that you should provide us, and essentially give you an insight into how PTNY coordinates the logistics of the event and gets you volunteers and those types of things, sort of what to expect. The second workshop comes a bit later in, I would say, like very early spring. And that really is more of a rubric, potentially, of some ideas that you can then institute or utilize, is a better word, to leverage those volunteers into your Friends group. So we don't want this necessarily just to be a one-off volunteer event. I mean, that is great, but we want to figure out a way for you to sort of maximize those volunteers engaging with your group and what you do, essentially turning them into more active partners.
Thank you. I hope that answers your question. So we will see you at both events, or both webinars, Andrew. Thank you. On the event theme, we have a question about the statewide conference from Heidi, and she is wondering if site managers will be invited to the fall meeting. I know neither one of us worked the 2019 statewide conference, but do you have an idea if site managers will be invited to that?
I do believe that is something that we'd like to put out there. I think we'll probably coordinate it to some degree with regional directors and sort of allow them to funnel the information out in a way that they see best fits. But yes, we'd absolutely like to have foster as many opportunities in the new year as we can for Friends groups to connect with park and site managers. That's obviously crucial to having a successful Friends group. And so that is certainly something that we want to have happen. Another thing that we're considering about the conference to that point, Heidi, just so you have that information, is we want to make some of the most pertinent breakout sessions available virtually. So I don't necessarily know if there'd be a lot of opportunity for Q&A and direct engagement, but be able to put that content out there for everyone to access so that it can sort of be a good way to start a conversation with a friends group or vice versa.
Heidi, I'm also looking at the question you asked during registration. I think this is a good tie-in. You were asking about communication between friends and site staff, and I think that is a good place is at the conference to do that. But I think you're also looking at where else that can happen, and I know that's a big component of the 5-year vision, and also a lot of what we're trying to achieve with this Friends Group Gateway. I wonder, Will, if you could talk a little bit more about how we will be facilitating communication between friends and park site staff.
Mm-hmm. So Heidi, we purposely created an opportunity as we were developing the gateway for outdoor recreation professionals, which would be certainly staff of OPRHP or other agencies, to be able to engage in the gateway. And so that is something that we have created, and we are specifically creating some discussion forums for those conversations, so that you can connect by region, or you can connect by the type of site that your friends group is. And so staff will also, parks staff, if you will also then be able to sort of post questions, ask for input from friends groups or from other outdoor recreation professionals about how to best manage those relationships, essentially, for lack of a better term. The other thing that we're considering, and it sort of ties to some of the things we have are envisioning for the Leadership Council, and we have no concrete plans for, but I'm going to float out an idea anyway, would really be to host essentially some listening sessions by region, where all the friends groups from a region would be invited, and then hopefully have some higher level participation from state parks to participate. So ideally with a regional director, as a great opportunity to sort of share information, particularly from the regional director down to all the friends groups, to say, this is what the region needs, these are our priorities and goals, here's how you can help us achieve that, and then just really sort of create this positive flow of information. So when, how exactly is still to be determined. Likely to be after Island Night Park Day, candidly, but it'd also be a great opportunity then, hopefully, for friends groups who might be considering a Park and Trail Partnership Grant application in the fall to say, oh, hey, our friends group is considering this thing. How does that resonate with you? Is there synergy here? Would this be an application that you would support? And then start to talk about those details with your park or site manager, sort of with the acknowledgement of the regional director. So those are some ways that we're thinking of, but there's others that we haven't quite even identified yet. We don't know what the gateway will offer us, or what other things might pop up. That's the beauty of our job, is we get to be a little bit nimble.
Will, I think you just had the perfect segue there into the Park and Trail Partnership grants. Mm-hmm. In the process. I know a lot of people on this call are probably familiar with those grants, but for those that haven't had the opportunity to do that, we talked about the rounds, but do you have any more information for what they should do to get started, who they should reach out to? Any questions about the grants, really?
Yeah, so we do host some webinars about how to apply for a Park and Trail Partnership Grant. Those are available on the PTNY website. We host them live and then we post the recording. So those are accessible to the public at any time. So, even if you're considering you don't know how to get started, it is a great 101. It gives you a really good sense of sort of a checklist of what types of things you might want to be working on now. Certainly want to make sure that your MOA is in good standing, and that your organizational documents are ready to go. But those conversations with your park and site manager first, and then potentially, depending, subsequently the regional director, so they're aware, I would say, are the number one thing. So those resources are there. Certainly, if you have other questions, reach out to Shayna or I. We can also connect you with Jonathan Duda, who's our grants coordinator at PTNY and has administered all of the rounds. So he's incredibly knowledgeable. So those are good starting points. One of the other things that Shana mentioned about the Gateway too, as part of our membership benefits, is we are going to host 2 workshops specifically on development, how to craft a successful grant application. We'll probably use the Park and Trail Partnership Grant as a crucible, but they're going to be best practice that would be applicable to any grant application going forward. So our development director is the expert. Lyndon certainly is much more knowledgeable than I am on that, and she'll run through some of those pieces too. So I think it'll be a nice complementary element to that part of the grant period. I hope that answers your question. If not, throw some more in the chat.
Let's see. Oh, I'm missing the chat here. So we have a question from Janet. If my group has an operating budget that's below the Leadership Council consideration, I'd like to learn how my group might achieve that level. That's below Leadership Council consideration.
So, yeah. So let me see if I can. Jan, let me see if I answer that question for you effectively, and then if not, post another question in the chat, or you can email me, or we can connect over the phone too. So the Leadership Council, there's no membership dues based on budget or anything like that for council members. The members were essentially just selected to ensure that we had their input from different sized organizations, if that makes sense. They helped inform some of the benefits going into the Gateway. The Gateway memberships, the Friends Group memberships, if you will, are going to be based on your Friends Group's annual budget. So the Leader membership, which is for the groups that have the smallest annual budget, it's for groups that have a budget under $10,000. So you could have a budget of $1, all the way up to $999,000. That's the parameter. So as long as you have any kind of dollars in your bank account, that would put you into that category, and then they sort of progress from there. So our middle category, the ambassador, was running from $10,000 to $100,000 budget, and then our champion members would have budgets over $100,000 a year. So this was really crafted in the sense that we know the vast majority of Friends Groups are going to be in that leader category, budgets under $10,000, and that's why we set it that the membership fee for the year would be $50. And again, that's for your entire group. So as many members of your group can then participate in the Gateway for that flat fee. So I hope that answers your question. But again, if not, throw another question in there, or happy to email or chat with you too.
We do have a question from Fred. Fred is asking about resources on the Gateway, and if those resources include recommendations for group calendar tools and online registration for participants and volunteers. Yes, let's see.
Shay, you might actually know the answer to that question more specifically than I do, because you have literally gone through all of the resources that we had available to fine-tooth comb over the last 2 months or so. I don't know if anything rings a bell for you.
I would say, we don't have specific resources in that department, but we are constantly looking for new resources to add. And we have also used registration tools, different registration tools and different group calendar tools as an organization ourselves that we can recommend to individuals. So I'd love to chat more on that, and I'd love to do a little more research and provide that for you, Fred. I hope that helps. I know it's not,
Yeah, and Fred, that's another piece of the Gateway that we've spent probably some of the most time constructing, is what we're calling these Friends Forums, essentially. I think there's almost like 24 different topics, essentially, but Leadership Council members, Cynthia Shore in particular, from what Women Said, there's got to be a way for one Friends Group to reach out to others, either in the state or in our own regions, and say, who is a contractor for a security system, or we need a plumber. Who would you suggest? Who has anyone worked with? And that sort of spiraled this idea too, that we should be asking about, who has a good volunteer management software they would suggest, and what are the prices for that, and be able to crowdsource that information. So that's a great kickoff question to some of these forums to put out there, and Fred, see what you get, because Shayna's insights are going to be very helpful, but you might want to crowdsource as many as you can from groups that are in a very similar boat. And I think that's the beauty of what we're envisioning, and I really hope that we can achieve that for all of you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we touched on almost everything from the registration and the chat.
Oh, we did.
Any other questions in here?
Mhm.
We do have one question about advocacy.
Okay.
If you want to touch on that, but someone was asking if the Park and Trail Partnership Grant was increased to $2 million, what would that funding go towards?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, a lot of things, ideally. So the Park and Trail Partnership Grant, just so everybody knows, is funded by the Environmental Protection Fund. And with the new governor coming in, I think there was a sense from a lot of our partner organizations that there was an opportunity to increase the Environmental Protection Fund significantly. And so we wanted to try to put our hat in the ring to have some of that money essentially set aside for an expanded Park and Trail Partnership Grant. And our plans, very initial plans, were really just pretty simple. First would be to increase some of the current grant categories, specifically for those projects that are shovel in the ground, if you will. We know that hiring construction companies to do the work is more expensive. We know the raw materials for a lot of the projects that you all want to do are more expensive. So we wanted to bolster that category so that you have the funding that you need to do it. We have also heard from some groups that the cap on that category is actually a bit stifling. They have bigger projects they'd like to do if they could get more money. So that was one thing we wanted to do. Another key piece that we've really been we'd like to try to advance with that is diversity, equity, inclusion. In part, sort of in a two-prong approach to that. One would be to get funding to friends groups to build partnerships with other nonprofits in your park community that could then engage different populations or new park users to come to your park and site around some meaningful programming or events and those types of things. We want to make sure that all of our public lands and parks and sites are accessible for all New Yorkers. And so we were really looking at diversity in every aspect, not just necessarily like racial or cultural, but with differing abilities and those types of things as well. And the other piece on the other prong there, if you will, was to provide a specific category of funding for friends groups to have some training and consulting and education around DEI within the nonprofit space. So it's for your group, your board, to really think about, what does DEI mean to us and our mission? How do those things connect with our park community and the spaces that we champion, and sort of kick off some ways to incorporate best practices around that going forward. And that's a big lift, and that's an ongoing process. So we would want to make sure that we provided enough of a robust funding stream for that, so you had some really quality education and resources to go into that. So those are the initial thoughts. The landscape changes daily in Albany, as you all know, if you read the news or you get your news online, how that works. But likely the EPF will not grow this year. So it was just something that we wanted to put out there, and we thought it was advantageous to at least put our future wants and needs out into the world. If and when the EPF can grow, it will absolutely be something that we fight for. And if that time comes, we'll be calling on all of you to help share your stories and make sure that comes to pass.
Let's see. I think that might be it. I just want to address this one last thing that Heidi mentioned, that that she has great working relationships with friends groups and just sees the conference and the gateway as opportunities to get to continue to work together. And I think that's huge. I mean, that's one of the big things that we're trying to achieve in 2022 really, is to bring state parks and friends together, and PTNY. You know, I think the more opportunities we have to bring each other together, to continue these conversations, to share resources and network and really, you know, help each other in the work, because we're all working towards the same thing. We're all working towards promoting and supporting New York State Park System, and DEC lands, public lands, if you're not with state parks on this call. But yeah, so I think that's beautiful. Thank you, Heidi, for sharing that. With that, Will, I think we'll send it in to wrap.
You got it.
Okay.
So yes, well, you know, thank you all so much for joining us again. We know this was a different workshop, but we thought it was really important to kind of, again, review what we've done and where we're going, and give you a sense of everything we want to do for all of you as friends groups. So a couple things we wanted to share. First, check your inbox in the coming days for a follow-up email from us. The email will also contain a recording of today's workshop, as well as dates and a summary of information to help you prepare for 2022. You know, feel free to share that email with other members of your group if you think any of the upcoming dates or workshops and things that we put out to you, or this recording specifically, would be of benefit to any of them, and just kind of share that knowledge out. If you would like to connect with any other attendee on today's workshop, you know, let us know, send us an email, and we would be happy to connect you. Next, I just want to mention one more time that our next workshop will be on Thursday, January 20th at 4 o'clock. And we're going to be diving into the Friends Group Gateway to really provide you all a bit more specifics and details around that, and what you can expect, and essentially how it will work and how you can get involved. And finally, as we say every workshop, you know, stay in touch with us, please. You know, we can't emphasize enough that we are here for you. We're happy to share and promote your upcoming events and programs, answer any questions, provide you the resources and connections that we can. So if you're not following us on social media, we encourage you to do that. It's a good way to see some of the other things that we have going on organizationally, but also specifically with parks and our friends groups. And so with that, thank you all so much for being here and sticking with us and coming to these workshops. You know, Shana and I and everyone here at PTNY wish you all a great holiday season and a happy new year. New year, new energy, right, Shana?
Always.
Always. Great. So thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Have a great evening.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.